The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was silent. Thousands of alien representatives sat in their seats, watching the center stage where the fate of Earth would be decided. The hall was massive, built on a space station that floated between stars. Lights of many colors shone from above, and the air smelled strange to human noses. President walked slowly to the speaking platform. She was a small woman with short black hair and tired eyes. She had been the leader of humanity for 7 years, and each year had been harder than the last. Behind her stood Admiral, a tall man with a face and hands that had seen many battles. His uniform was simple and dark, with no medals or decorations. He did not need them. Everyone knew who he was. The ambassador rose from his seat across the hall. His name was, and he was twice the size of any human. His skin was gray and rough like stone, and his 4 eyes glowed with a yellow light. When he spoke, his voice was deep and filled the entire room. "Humans of Earth," said, "you have heard our demands. You will give us your outer colonies. You will reduce your fleet to 100 ships. You will pay tribute to the Empire every cycle. If you refuse, we will take what we want by force." Did not answer right away. She looked around the hall at all the alien faces. Some looked at her with pity. Others looked away, not wanting to meet her eyes. None of them would help. They never did. For 300 years, humanity had been part of the galactic community. And for 300 years, they had been pushed around. First, it was small things. Trade deals that favored others. Borders that kept shrinking. Then it got worse. They took their first colony 50 years ago. Then another. Then another. Each time the council told humanity to be patient, to negotiate, to keep the peace. Was tired of patience. She thought about her grandmother who had told her stories of old Earth, a time when humans only fought each other because there was no one else to fight. Her grandmother always said that humans were stubborn, that they never gave up, even when they should, that they would rather die standing than live on their knees. "Ambassador," finally said, her voice calm and clear, "I have a question for you." Tilted his large head, "Ask." "In all the years your empire has bullied mine, have you ever wondered why we never fought back?" The hall grew even more quiet, his 4 eyes narrowed. "Because you are weak, because you know you cannot win." Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "No, it was because we hoped. We hoped that one day the galaxy would see us as equals. We hoped that peace was possible. We hoped that if we showed kindness, we would receive kindness in return." She paused and looked at Admiral. He gave her a small nod. "But hope," continued, "can only last so long. You have taken our homes, you have killed our people, you have laughed at our suffering, and the galaxy has done nothing but watch." Stood taller, his chest puffing out. "Then you accept our terms." "No," said. The word was simple, but it hit the hall like a bomb. Whispers spread through the crowd. Eyes widened. "What did you say?" he demanded. Stepped closer to the edge of the platform. Her hands were steady. Her voice did not shake. "I said no. No more colonies given away. No more ships destroyed. No more tribute paid to those who treat us like animals." Laughed, a horrible sound like rocks grinding together. "You are a fool, human. Your fleet is small. Your technology is behind ours. We will crush you in days." "Perhaps," said, "but you have made a mistake, Ambassador. You have pushed us too far. And now you will see what happens when humanity stops hopping for peace and starts preparing for war." She turned to face the entire council. Her eyes moved from face to face, making sure they all heard her next words. "To all the species here today, I want you to know something. We came to the stars with open hands. We wanted friends. We wanted to learn and share and grow together, but you taught us a different lesson. You taught us that the galaxy only respects strength. So strength is what we will show you." Admiral stepped forward. From his pocket he took out a small device and pressed a button. Above the hall the holographic display changed. It showed a map of space around Earth, and on that map thousands of new signals appeared. Ships, human ships, more ships than anyone knew existed. Gasps filled the hall, even took a step back. For 100 years, said, his voice rough and cold, we have been building, in secret, in places you never thought to look. Every mine, every factory, every shipyard working day and night. You thought we were weak because we did not fight, but we were not weak. We were waiting. His face twisted with anger and fear. This is a trick. You cannot have so many ships. It is no trick, said. Humanity is done talking. We are done begging. We are done hoping that others will treat us fairly. She raised her chin and spoke her final words to the council, words that would echo through history. No more talk. Let the war begin. The hall exploded into chaos. Ambassadors shouted and ran, roared commands into his communicator, but President simply turned and walked away, Admiral at her side. As they left the hall, spoke quietly. Are you sure about this? Once we start, there is no going back. Looked at him with eyes that had seen too much pain. We should have done this long ago. Our children will not live as slaves. Our will not know fear. Whatever happens next, at least we will face it standing up. Outside, their ship waited. And beyond that, in the darkness of space, the human fleet was already moving. 300 years of patience had ended. 300 years of anger was about to be released. The war had begun. The news spread across Earth in seconds. Every screen, every speaker, every device carried the same message. President's words played again and again. No more talk. Let the war begin. In the city of New Seoul, a young pilot named sat in a small restaurant, watching the broadcast with wide eyes. Around her, people stood frozen, their food forgotten, their drinks growing warm. Some cried. Some cheered. Most simply stared, unable to believe what they were hearing. His communicator buzzed. She looked at the screen and saw one word, report. Her heart began to beat faster. She had trained for this moment for 5 years. Part of her had believed it would never come. Now it was here. She left money on the table and ran outside. The streets were crowded with people looking up at the giant screens on buildings. Traffic had stopped. Everyone was watching history unfold. At the military base outside the city, General Minyu stood in the command center. He was an old man now, with white hair and deep lines on his face. But his eyes were sharp, and his mind was sharper. He had spent his entire life preparing for this day. General, a young officer said, all units are reporting in. The fleet is ready. Minyu nodded slowly. He looked at the massive screen in front of him, showing the positions of every human ship in the galaxy. There were so many of them, hidden in asteroid fields, disguised as cargo ships, built in underground bases on moons that no one ever visited. The secret had been kept for 100 years, passed down from one generation to the next. Send the signal, Minyu said. Wake them all up. Across the galaxy, ships began to move. In the cold darkness of space, engines that had been sleeping for years roared to life. Pilots who had waited their whole lives finally had their orders. The Great Awakening had begun. On the carrier ship Thunder of Earth, Commander arrived just as the ship was leaving its hiding place inside a hollowed-out asteroid. She ran through the corridors, still putting on her flight suit, until she reached the pilot briefing room. 50 pilots sat inside, all of them young, all of them ready. They looked at her as she entered. She was their leader and they trusted her with their lives. You all saw the broadcast, said, standing at the front of the room. You know why we're here. For years we trained in secret. We flew simulations. We studied the enemy. Some of you wondered if this day would ever come. Now it has. She pressed a button, and a holographic map appeared in the air. It showed the Empire, a massive area of space filled with conquered worlds and stolen resources. Our first target is the planet, continued. It's a military base, heavily defended. They think they're safe there. They think we're too weak to attack. They're wrong. A pilot named raised his hand. He was young, barely 20 years old, with a nervous look in his eyes. Commander, what if we don't win? What if this is a mistake? looked at him for a long moment. She understood his fear. She felt it too, but she also knew something else. "Let me tell you a story. My grandmother lived on a colony world that took when she was young. She watched them burn her home. She watched them take her parents away. She spent the rest of her life as a refugee, moving from place to place, never belonging anywhere. She died last year, still dreaming of a home she could never return to." The room was silent. "I'm not fighting because I think we'll win easily," said. "I'm fighting because I'm tired of watching my people suffer. I'm fighting because my children deserve better. And I'm fighting because if we don't fight now, we never will." She looked at each pilot one by one. "Every single one of you has a story like mine. Every single one of you has lost something to the... Today, we take it back. Today, we show the galaxy what humans can do when they stop being afraid." The pilots stood up as one. Their faces were hard now, determined. Fear had been replaced by something stronger. On Earth, people gathered in the streets. They held signs and candles. They sang old songs that their grandparents had taught them, songs about hope and courage and never giving up. The whole planet seemed to wake up from a long sleep. In the government building, President met with her advisors. Admiral stood by her side as always. The room was filled with maps and screens showing troop movements and ship positions. "They are calling their ships back to defend their core worlds," an advisor said. "They didn't expect us to have so many forces. They're scared." "Good," said. "Let them be scared. For once, let them feel what we have felt for 300 years." Pointed at the map. "We need to hit them fast before they can organize a proper defense. Squadron will lead the attack on. If we can take that base, we cut off their supply lines to 3 sectors." Nodded. "Do it. And make sure the whole galaxy is watching. I want every species to see this. I want them to see that humanity is not a species to be pushed around." On the Thunder of Earth climbed into her fighter. It was a sleek ship, painted dark blue with a white star on the side. Her grandmother's name was written in small letters near the cockpit, a reminder of why she fought. She closed the cockpit and checked her systems. Everything was green. Everything was ready. "All pilots, this is Commander. Form up on my wing. We jump in 60 seconds. Through her window, she could see the other fighters taking position. 50 ships moving as one. And behind them, the massive carrier that was their home. "Remember your training," said into the radio. "Trust each other. Watch each other's backs. And whatever happens, don't let them push you around. We're not afraid anymore." The countdown reached 0. The jump drives activated. And in a flash of light, the first human attack force disappeared into the stars. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Hidden fleets emerged from their hiding places. Secret bases opened their doors. Ships that had been built in the dark finally saw the light of stars. General Menu watched it all from his command center. A single tear ran down his old face. He had dedicated his life to this moment. Every sacrifice, every secret, every long night of planning had led to this. "It's beautiful," he whispered. "It's finally happening." On the streets of Earth, the crowds grew larger. They knew that somewhere far away, their sons and daughters were flying into battle. They knew that some of them would not come back. But they also knew that for the first time in 300 years, humanity was fighting back. The awakening was complete. The sleeping giant had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same. The war was 3 months old, and the galaxy had changed. Lieutenant sat in the intelligence room of the battleship Iron Will, her eyes locked on the screens in front of her. She was a quiet woman with sharp eyes and a gift for finding secrets. For weeks, she had been intercepting communications, listening to their private messages, reading their fears. "Major, sir," she called out, "you need to hear this." Major walked over. He was a thick man with broad shoulders and a face that rarely smiled. He had led 100 battles in the past 3 months, pushing deeper into territory than any human had ever been. He was tired, but he would not rest until the war was won. "What is it?" he asked. Played the recording. It was a commander talking to his crew. The translator converted the alien language into Korean, but the emotion was clear even without words. The commander was terrified. "They came from nowhere," the voice said. "We had twice their numbers. It did not matter. They moved so fast. They hit so hard. Half my fleet is gone. The survivors want to surrender. I do not know what to tell them. How do you fight an enemy that is not afraid to die?" Major listened in silence. When the recording ended, he looked at. "How many messages like this have you found?" "Dozens, sir, maybe hundreds. They're everywhere." Pulled up more files on her screen. "Their supply lines are failing. Their soldiers are refusing orders. Some colonies are asking to surrender before we even attack them." Allowed himself a small smile. 3 months ago, the galaxy had laughed at humanity. Now the laughter had stopped. Now there was only fear. "Send this to command," he said. "They need to know the enemy is breaking." Far across the stars, President received the reports in her office on Earth. Admiral stood beside her, marking positions on a holographic map. Red dots showed territory. Blue dots showed human forces. 3 months ago, the red had been overwhelming. Now the blue was spreading like a wave. "They're collapsing faster than we expected," said. "Their outer colonies are surrendering without a fight. Their fleet is scattered and disorganized. We could push to their capital within a month." Looked at the map. She thought about all the lives this war had cost. Human lives, lives. Even after everything they had done, she did not enjoy the killing, but she knew it was necessary. "What about the other species?" she asked. "Are they getting involved?" "No, ma'am, they're staying out of it. Most of them are just watching to see what happens." Paused. "Some of them are actually rooting for us, though we're not kind to their neighbors either." Nodded. The galaxy was learning a new lesson. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not prey, and anyone who tried to treat them that way would regret it. On the front lines, Major led his forces against the colony of. It was a mining world, rich with metals that they needed for their ships. Without it, their production would slow to a crawl. Stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the planet grow larger in the. Around him, his crew worked with silent efficiency. They had done this many times now. They knew exactly what to do. "Sir, enemy ships detected," the sensor officer reported. 30 vessels, they're forming a defensive line." Only 30, was not impressed. 3 months ago, 30 ships would have been a serious threat. Now his fleet had over 100. "Tell them to surrender. Give them one chance." The communication officer sent the message. Minutes passed. Then the reply came. "Sir, they're surrendering, all 30 ships." The bridge was silent for a moment. Then someone laughed. It was a strange sound full of relief and disbelief. "They didn't even fight," a young officer said. "They just gave up." Watched the enemy ships power down their weapons. He felt no triumph, only a tired satisfaction. "War is not about fighting," he said. "It is about winning. If we can win without fighting, that is better for everyone." He ordered his ships to secure the surrendered fleet and move to occupy the planet. The forces on the ground surrendered too. They had heard the stories. They knew what human forces had done to those who resisted. They chose to live. On the Iron Will, Lieutenant continued to monitor enemy communications. She found something new, something that made her blood run cold. "Major," she said urgently when he returned, "I found a message from the High Command. They're planning something." Looked at the screen. The message was encrypted but had broken the code. It described a weapon, something old and terrible that they had built long ago and never used. "What is this?" asked. "I don't know exactly," admitted. "But the message says it can destroy entire planets. They're considering using it on Earth." The air in the room seemed to freeze. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stared at the screen. "How soon can they use it?" The voice was hard and flat. "The message says 10 days. They need to move it into position first." Turned to his communications officer. "Get me President now. This cannot wait." When heard the news, her face went pale. She had known they were desperate, but she had not expected this. A weapon that could destroy Earth. 10 days. "Can we stop it?" she asked. The Admiral was already calculating. "If we know where the weapon is, yes. We can send our fastest ships, but we need to find it first." Looked at the map. The capital was still far away, protected by their remaining forces. Somewhere in that territory was a weapon pointed at her home. "Lieutenant," she said, speaking directly to the intelligence officer through the communication link, "I need you to find that weapon, whatever it takes, however long it takes, find it." Straightened in her chair. "Yes, ma'am, I won't let you down." For the next 5 days, barely slept. She intercepted every message she could find. She broke code after code. She traced supply movements and analyzed patrol patterns. Slowly, piece by piece, she built a picture of where the weapon was hidden. On the 6th day, she found it. "Major," her voice cracked from exhaustion, "I have the location. The weapon is in orbit around a moon called. It's in the system, behind their main defensive line." Looked at the position on the map. It was deep in enemy territory. Getting there would be dangerous, but they had no choice. "Tell command," he said, "we're going in." The human fleet gathered its fastest ships. Commander volunteered to lead the strike force. Her squadron had become famous across the galaxy. If anyone could reach in time, it was her. "Commander," President said in a personal message, "the fate of Earth is in your hands. I know that is a heavy burden, but I also know you can carry it. Your grandmother would be proud of you." Watched the message alone in her quarters. She touched the picture of her grandmother that she kept by her bed, an old woman with kind eyes and a sad smile. "I won't let them hurt our home," whispered. "I promise." She walked to her fighter and climbed inside. Through the hangar windows, she could see the stars waiting for her. Somewhere out there was a weapon that could end everything. Somewhere out there was her mission. "All pilots form up," she said into the radio. "We jump in 5 minutes. Stay close and stay fast. We're saving Earth today." The countdown began. The engines warmed, and humanity's greatest challenge was about to begin. The jump to the system was the longest of life. Her small fleet of 50 ships crossed hundreds of light years in moments, but those moments felt like hours. She thought about Earth. She thought about the billions of people there, going about their lives, not knowing that a weapon was pointed at their planet. They came out of the jump near a small moon called. It was gray and lifeless, orbiting a dead world. And there, hanging in space above it, was the weapon. Had seen many terrible things in her life, but nothing had prepared her for this. The weapon was massive, bigger than any ship she had ever seen. It was shaped like a spear, pointed and cruel, covered with strange symbols that glowed with red light. She could feel its power even through the walls of her fighter. It felt wrong. It felt evil. "All pilots, weapons ready," she said, keeping her voice steady. "We have one job: destroy that thing before it fires." The guards saw them coming. 30 ships moved to intercept, forming a wall between the human fleet and the weapon. They were the last line of defense, and they knew it. "Enemy ships engaging," reported. "They're not running this time." "No," agreed. "They're protecting the weapon. They'll fight to the last ship." She took a breath. "So will we." The battle began with fire and light. Human ships clashed with guards in a desperate dance of death. Missiles flew in all directions. Energy beams cut through space. Ships exploded, their crews dying in seconds. Flew through the chaos, her hands steady on the controls. She had one target, the weapon. Everything else was just obstacles. A fighter came at her from the left. She twisted her ship and fired, destroying it in a ball of fire. Another came from the right, caught it before it could shoot. They moved together, covering each other, protecting each other. "Commander, the weapon is charging." His voice was sharp with panic. "It's going to fire." Looked at the massive structure. Was right. The red glow was growing brighter. Energy was building around the spear's tip. In minutes, maybe seconds, it would release that energy, and Earth would burn. "All ships focus fire on the weapon," shouted. "Forget the guards, hit the weapon." The human fleet turned as one and charged toward the spear. Guards tried to stop them, but the humans did not slow down. Some pilots were hit and died. Others flew through the fire without looking back. They had one purpose now. Nothing else mattered. Pushed her throttle to maximum. Her fighter shook from the speed. Warning lights flashed on her console, but she ignored them. The weapon was right in front of her, so close. She fired everything she had. Missiles, energy beams, everything. Other pilots did the same. The weapon's surface began to crack and burn, but it was still charging, still building power. "It's not enough," cried. "We're not doing enough damage." Looked at the weapon. Looked at her missiles, now empty. Looked at her ship, damaged and slow, and she understood what she had to do. "All pilots pull back," she said calmly. "Commander, what are you doing?" "I'm finishing the mission." Turned off her radio. She did not want to hear their protests. She did not want them to try to stop her. She aimed her fighter at the center of the weapon, where the energy was strongest. Her engine screamed as she accelerated. The weapon grew larger in her, filling it completely. She thought of her grandmother. She thought of Earth. She thought of the children who would grow up free because of what she was about to do. "For humanity," she whispered. Her fighter hit the weapon at full speed. The explosion was blinding. Energy released in all directions, tearing the weapon apart. The shockwave pushed back every ship in the area. For a moment, there was only light. When the light faded, the weapon was gone. Where it had been, there was only debris and fire. Stared at the space where his commander had been. His hands were shaking. His eyes were wet. "She did it," he said softly. "She destroyed it." The remaining guards stopped fighting. They had nothing left to protect. One by one, they powered down their weapons and surrendered. The news reached Earth in minutes. The weapon was gone. Earth was safe. Commander had given her life to save billions. President heard the news in her office. She sat down slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. A young woman had died so that humanity could live. One more sacrifice in a war full of sacrifices. "What now?" Admiral asked quietly. Stood up, her eyes were hard. "Now we end this. Tell Major to advance on the capital, full speed. No stopping until we get there." The human fleet moved like a storm. With their super weapon destroyed, they had nothing left. Their remaining forces surrendered or fled. Their colonies fell one after another. Within 2 weeks, human ships were orbiting the High Commander stood in his palace, watching the human fleet through his window. Thousands of ships surrounded his planet. There was no escape, no hope. When President arrived to accept his surrender, she came alone. She walked into his throne room without guards or weapons. She looked at the massive alien who had once demanded Earth's surrender. "Ambassador," she said, "do you remember what you said to me in the council chamber? You said humans were weak. You said you would crush us in days." Said nothing. His 4 eyes stared at the ground. "I want you to know something," continued. "We never wanted this war. We wanted peace. We wanted friendship. You could have had humanity as an ally. Instead, you chose to be our enemy. This is the result." She handed him a document. "These are the terms of your surrender. You will release all human prisoners. You will return all human colonies. You will pay for the damage you caused. And you will never threaten another species again." Took the document with shaking hands. He had no choice but to sign it. The war was over. 1 month later, the Galactic Council met again. The same hall where had declared war was now filled with very different faces. The alien ambassadors looked at the human delegation with new eyes, fear, respect, and something else, hope. President walked to the speaking platform. Admiral stood behind her, proud and strong. Around the hall, billions of beings watched the broadcast, waiting to hear what humanity would say. 300 years ago, humanity came to the stars with open hands. We wanted peace. We wanted to learn and grow with you, but we were treated as weak, as prey. We were pushed and bullied and hurt. She paused, looking around the hall. We have proven that we are not weak. We have shown what humanity can do when it fights back. But that is not who we want to be. We do not want to be conquerors. We do not want to rule through fear. She took a deep breath. Today, I offer the galaxy a choice. We can continue to fight each other. We can continue to fear each other, or we can build something new. A galaxy where no species is bullied, where no species is afraid, where we work together instead of against each other. She looked directly at the cameras broadcasting to every world. Humanity will protect this peace, not because we want to control the galaxy, but because we know what it means to be powerless. We know what it means to suffer, and we will not let anyone else suffer the way we did. The hall was silent. Then slowly applause began. First one species, then another, then another. Soon the entire hall was cheering. President stepped back from the platform. Admiral put a hand on her shoulder. "It's over," he said. "We won." Thought about all the people who had died. Commander, the pilots, the soldiers, the civilians, all the lives lost in a war that should never have happened. "No," she said quietly, "we survived. Now comes the hard part. Now we have to build something worth surviving for." In a small park on Earth, a statue was being built. It showed a woman in a pilot's uniform, her face turned toward the stars. The inscription at the base was simple. "Commander, she gave everything so we could have tomorrow." Children played around the statue, laughing and running. They did not know about the war. They did not know about the fear. They only knew that they were free, that they were safe, that they were human. And that was enough.